It's not dominance, it's not disobedience, it's not failed socialization, and it's not fake friendly. So if it's none of those things, what the heck is selective reactivity all about? It's about thresholds, pattern recognition, and environmental variables that humans miss. Most dogs who struggle in public don't struggle all the time, right? They just struggle some of the time. Like they could walk past 10 dogs and be fine. And then they get a look from one and it's absolute chaos. Or they're going to be great in the park and then they get maybe to a narrow sidewalk and have some explosive behavior. They could be off leash, perfectly fine on leash, boom, big old behaviors. It messes with people's heads. Why? And it's because inconsistency in your dog's behavior can feel personal, which means we start thinking crazy thoughts. Like, I must be doing something wrong. I ruined socialization. My dog is unpredictable now, so now he's a problem. I want to set the record straight tonight. This is extremely common and it's not a failure. So have you ever asked, I don't get it. My dog is usually fine, except for whatever that question mark is. So you're in the right place. If you can, if you're in chat, just go ahead and type in a couple things, one or two things that your dog reacts to. We want to know what your dog reacts to. Selective reactivity isn't random. It's a pattern behavior. And the good news about that is that patterns are absolutely workable. So welcome to Teaching Tuesday. It's the last Teaching Tuesday of 2025. It's from Pause and Success, brought to you by Castellina Canines. I'm Heather Furby. I am lead behavior specialist and owner of Castellina Canines and Pause and Success. I've got a master's in human canine relations and canine cognition. Behind the scenes is Alan Repich, who's our marketing and operations. And we've got our Pause and Success team. We are here to help you move beyond obedience and learn how behavior actually happens in the real world so you can train for real life. So tonight we're going to break down why selective reactivity shows up, what a lot of owners miss, why they try to, and when they try to fix it, and then how to stop guessing and start responding with clarity. I want to thank one of our new members actually wrote to me and talked about selective reactivity, and we went back and forth. I said, great topic. Let's do this for Teaching Tuesday. So as always, if you're in a foundations, remember there's a post at the bottom. You just go search for it, that you can submit your topic that you're interested in, or you can send our CLC team an email. Little bit of housekeeping. We generally go about 30 minutes. Sometimes I get to talking or there's some great questions. We'll go longer. You can pop in or out. There'll always be a recording. They will be moved over to YouTube soon, but right now they're in the foundations area. If you have questions, you can type them in. Bottom of your screen, if you are on a computer, should be a little chat box. You can just put it in there. And Alan will monitor those. I'll check them on occasion, and then the questions will come to me. So we're ready to roll. So there's no pressure to participate. Also, we don't need to label our dogs tonight. We use reactive and reactivity a lot, and I think it's overused in our industry. So tonight we just want to give solid information so that you can get better timing and get better results. So I am going to attempt to share my screen, which, as some of you that know me know, that's always a fun challenge. I think I have it. So you can see me. We're just going to go through some slides, but you don't have to take notes. It's just so that folks that want to stare at something other than my big mug certainly can. So we're looking at tonight on why he's friendly, except for this little situation happens. So let's get started. We want to talk about the pattern people live with in this selective reactivity. And it can get infuriating because it becomes, hey, my dog's fine. Then they're not fine. Then they're sometimes fine. Then they're fine. Then they're never fine. And then they're fine. And we just go back and forth. Like we said, it's a crazy pattern. It's normal. Yes, it's completely frustrating, but it's normal. We want to say that it's not a personality flaw in your dog. It's a context problem. So we'll get into what that means tonight. It's not a dog problem. So we want a really clear definition of what is selective reactivity. And selective reactivity is a dog who can handle some dogs, some people, or some situations, but react strongly to others. So why is that? We call our dogs stubborn a lot, but one thing I can tell you, if they were stubborn, they'd be really consistent in doing it. And dogs are a lot of things. But one thing is that they are not consistent jerks. We love them, so we want to help and support them. So we're going to get into what all this is. Sometimes in order to describe for me like what something is, I have to talk about what it's not. So I want to talk about selective reactivity. It is not, we said it's not about stubbornness. It's not about dominance or disobedience. It's not even about failed socialization. That's where people blame themselves. Oh, I need to expose my dog to more. We got to socialize him. He wasn't socialized. I've got to get out there and socialize him. It's not what selective reactivity is about. It's also not about being fake friendly. I want to myth bust in this one. Fake friendly. What do I mean by that? We talk a lot about, there's this myth about coyotes. You heard it? Like Coyote the trickster that come and lure your dog away so that, one coyote will come up, make friends with your dog, lure them away to the pack, and then the pack attacks your dog. Let's bust that myth. It's not happening in your neighborhood. I promise you it's not happening in your neighborhood. Here's what usually happens. This is about patterns, so I'll put this all in context, but it's that one coyote often comes up to just explore. They're looking for food, they're out there, they meet your dog, and your dog goes, looks like friend, let's follow friend. And it follows the coyote, and the coyote, being much more natural in its settings, gets scared and runs back towards its pack. And they do live in packs. Our dogs do not need packs, but wolves, coyotes need packs. So they're going to run back to the coyotes because they're trying to be safe. Your dog follows. The rest of the pack goes, bah, new person. We don't want you here. We don't want, and they attack the dog. And we know terrible outcomes have happened. I can guarantee you somebody's going to tell me, yeah, but my uncle, my nephew, my neighbor told me this happened to their dog. Bad things can happen with dogs and coyotes. I get it. But it's not that one individual is faking friendly to come and manipulate a situation to bring back food. It's not what canines do. We can talk about this if you have questions, or we can myth bust later, but we want to talk about that. So it's not dominance, it's not disobedience, it's not failed socialization, and it's not fake friendly. So if it's none of those things, what the heck is selective reactivity all about? It's about thresholds, pattern recognition, and environmental variables that humans miss. That's what we're going to dive into tonight. About those thresholds, pattern recognition, and environmental variables. Tonight is not about fixing everything. It's going to be about noticing, and maybe noticing a little quicker and a little, I hate the word better, but maybe a little bit better about what our dog's doing. So why does selective reactivity show up? We talk about patterns. Dogs don't react to dogs necessarily. They react to pictures and entire scenarios. So there's a whole context in which dogs learn to respond and understand from. So dogs don't learn from repetition alone. They learn from predicting what's coming next. That is a survival skill that has held on throughout the breeding, but it's that prediction. So it's pattern prediction, and they survive on it and they thrive on it. And it's what allows us to help them understand this human world. So we want to look at these big buckets. There are 3 big buckets that help with understanding selective reactivity. And that's that your dog will always learn in context and environment about the other dog or human. And we always want to think about the dog that you have today. Easy way we always say that is train the dog in front of you. But it's more than train the dog in front of you. It's literally train the dog in front of you today. Respond and support the dog in front of you today. So let's get into it. Because otherwise I'll explain it a lot, but let's dive into what these are. So bucket 1, context and environment. This explains the question when we talk about why this dog here, but not that dog over there, or why at the dog park, but not at home. Why in the parking lot, but not, I don't know, over on the grass. Okay, so those are contexts, those are pictures. And let's see, what's an example I can use? The best example I can say is one of the most predictable things in a dog's life is a car ride. Okay, so for a moment, let's not think of your dog, but think of a dog that can comfortably ride in a car. Car rides are they're so predictable. It's the same pattern setup, right? Same door, same sequence, same human behavior, same outcomes. So the dog learns sit, wait, make eye contact, and then we release, right? And it's the same every time. So, assuming your dog can manage the car, now we change context, which is a place. Like, let's say we go to a store and there's a doorway, or we go to your friend's house, or even the front door or back door. Change the context. And now the dog struggles. They're barking, pulling, jumping, right? But we're like, well, wait, but they know the content. They know how to sit and wait and make eye contact and wait for release. Why can't they do it at this doorway? It's so frustrating. I get it. So what we want to remember is that the dog didn't learn in the car, sit and wait. They learned sit and wait when this entire picture is present. When I'm in the car, when it's daylight, when I'm in the back of a car, when the hand goes up and says, wait, when, we've driven for more than 30 seconds. The entire picture did the teaching. So the context did the teaching, not the cue. So think of that again. Context did the teaching, not the cue. I'm going to hopefully bring this back around. But what we have here is predictable pictures give you success. New pictures give struggle. Now, a new picture can be the slightest context change. It could be your dog struggles in the car at night, but they're fine during the day. Happens a lot with crates. My dog will go into the crate during the night, but not the day. And it's because we haven't worked in that context. So it's part of the picture. Biggest context thing I can say is when we deliver food. I talk to people all the time that have the food bowl. We sit, dogs perfectly can wait, have all kinds of self-control. We put that dish down and the dog's perfect. We think that the dog knows sit, down, couple tricks, targets. They can have self-restraint. Hey, Luna, let's choose another activity. Try. And then we switch up the context and they have no self-restraint. And it's because that entire feeding, again, did big food, big motivator. The context did the teaching, not the cue. So that's what we've got on why we want to think about bucket one being context and environment. Teach a dog. Keep that in our noggin. We look at bucket number two is where I'm just going to call it the other. And the other could be another dog or other human. It's an other thing. Now, to clarify, it's still just context, but it's much more intricate because it's a variable you can't control, right? So it's what does this dog or this human predict? If you've looked through a lot of other Teaching Tuesdays, or if you're part of our mastery, you've seen that we talk about the ABCs. And the way we talk about ABCs is different than the traditional behavior ABCs, which are valid. But our ABCs are how dogs learn, which is association, bit by bit, and consistency. So they've made an association with this other. And then they say, well, what does that other thing predict? So I'm going to react based on what I think that other thing is predicting for me. What is this? Let's look at social pressure signals. Huge reason behind selective reactivity. So what are social pressure signals? That's things either human or dog present to your dog. So head-on movement, that's coming right at the dog, head to head. Polite movement for dogs is going to be more of a circle. They see each other. They might do a quick nose to nose, nose to rear, and then a polite dog disengages. So that head-on movement could be the thing that is triggering your dog. If they had an experience with head-on movement, which is coming right there, and it didn't go well, or they got scared, or they had conflicting emotions, now from a distance, they see a dog and that dog's coming straight at them. And now what did we say? context and environment, they're great at predicting patterns. So even your dog says, I'm seeing a dog come at me. I know where this goes. We'll talk about a lot of other factors that go in, but I'm already predicting that something bad's going to happen because this dog already, or a dog came at me head to head. The trick that we've got to do with selective reactivity, and we will talk about that, is, hey, what are we doing over there, Luna? Is to try to figure out this pattern with your dog, and that can take detective work. Social pressure signals are head-to-head movement, bouncy puppy and juvenile behavior. Nothing worse than the bouncy puppy coming at the other dog to help trigger the other dog. Adult dog, puppy behavior, juvenile behavior are all very different languages. And that's where we want to get into what our proper socialization is, which is about helping your dog disengage. We've just been diving into this deep in mastery this last month about what actual socialization is. So hopefully we'll be getting some out to Foundations members, or actually we're going to be doing a new tier pretty soon to make this information more accessible. It's going to be our basics tier, which is going to really be around buddy basics and have all these Teaching Tuesdays and the live Q&A as part of Teaching Tuesdays. And that'll be the only way we'll get access to these live Teaching Tuesdays. Then we'll be at the basics tier. Otherwise, they'll be up on YouTube for recording. Watch your email. I don't want to go into sales. Watch your email for what that happens, or what we're going to be releasing, but it'll be the basics tier. And in there, we're going to talk a lot about, we'll be able to address socialization and some of the questions a little bit deeper as well. We'll still have the mastery group, and that's where we're going to go deep dive to really learning our dog's behavior and having the whole games library. But basics will make it a little bit more accessible to folks. So anyway, so we've got social pressure signals, like head-on movement, bouncy juvenile movement, stiff posture, not moving, human, hovering hands coming right over the top of your dog, reaching, talking, leaning in all at once, which is, boy, humans are great at that. That can be a social pressure for a dog that causes them to have emotions, usually fear, something like that, and then push back. So other one that has come up, and people talk about this, is direct staring. When eye contact is between you and your dog, it's incredibly bonding. It's the only thing, eye contact, the research has shown that oxytocin gets released in both you and your dog during staring, and dogs are about the only other species that they've ever been able to study this with that they release oxytocin by staring at us. So it's an incredible deep bonding moment, or can create that bonding. But with unfamiliar dogs or unfamiliar people, it's exactly the opposite. It's pressure. It's seen as, back off. I don't really want to be here. Some breeds tolerate more than others. So let's look at that. Like snub-nosed breeds, the brachiocephalic, those are all the pugs, the boxers, bulldogs, French bulldogs. They got the smashed face. They have more concentrated eye. Well, that's a bunch of geeky stuff. But anyway, more retinal cells concentrated in the front. Their eyes are in the center, and they can actually focus on you better. They do a lot of information from direct eye contact. But with other dogs, that can be fighting behavior. Herding breeds like collies, shepherds, Australian shepherds, we can go on. Any of the herding breeds, they survive with intense staring because the eye is part of their predatory sequence, right? They fix in on that sheep, goat, cow, and they stare it down, and they are communicating a whole lot with that direct eye contact. So they can tolerate more eye contact often from other dogs. But remember that it's also, they interpret it very quickly as a stare down, that I'm trying to move you with my eye contact. So that also means that those same breeds can be selectively reactive more during eye contact. So stay with me, and if you have questions, type them in, because I want you to learn, want you to make sense of this, because a confused mind can't go on. So there's no dumb question. Go ahead and put it in if you've got a question, and I'll get to them, as we go. So we got snub-nosed breeds, herding breeds. What other breeds love eye contact? The companion dogs, the Vizslas, the Labs, the retrievers, golden retrievers, a lot of sheepdogs that are known for being Velcro dogs to humans. They're constantly seeking our attention. They can often tolerate a lot more eye contact from human strangers. A bully breed, often you make eye contact real quick because they've got a high predatory drive in predation sequence intact. And what that means is they often skip over that whole eye contact thing and just go straight in for a bite or a bark or something to tell it go away. So we always train the dog in front of us, but there are some breed specific things that eye contact can mean a whole lot of communication for different breeds. Really, research shows that the breeds that are more like wolves, meaning they're ancient breeds, tolerate less eye contact because they are used to, I don't know, I guess their predation sequence, we haven't mucked with them as much. And so they're more intact where they're going to make quick eye contact and look away. So I'm going into eye contact because it's so important, because it's one of the main ways that dogs become selectively reactive, is because another dog is making eye contact or kind of pushing them in a way that they don't know. And if we're not aware of it, we don't know what to do. And so we end up walking our dog right into a situation that they're saying, I'm out, human, not loving this. And we can't pick up on the signals. Okay? So that's why I'm beating the eye contact thing. I guess the best way we can think of it is like if you were sitting in a restaurant or a bar, each person is going to react differently if you made prolonged eye contact with each person at the bar. Some people are going to be like, okay, creepy. Some people are going to be like, what, you want to fight? You can get real big. Other people are just going to be like, stop looking at me. Now I'm really uncomfortable. I don't know what to do. So we have the same kind of thing. It's just we have coping skills to deal with it. So that's what we want to teach our dogs. Coping skills. Okay, so let's get back to sharing my screen. And okay, so bucket 2 is always that it's not necessarily that our dogs are reacting to who, it's how. So it's how that dog is approaching, meaning they're coming straight on, they're bouncy, they're being like Tigger, they're staring direct in, hands are coming over. So it's a lot of the approach is what lands in this bucket of the other. The social pressure signals that we talked about, and then knowing that their association to that thing is learned and practiced, and that drives the response. So key to remember here is that dogs don't always react to other dogs. They react to how those dogs show up. And then an association is made, and then there's a memory, and now we're predicting patterns. So the bucket 3 we've got is training or looking at the dog you have today. And what we mean by that is we're looking at the emotional state of your dog that day. Did they have enough recovery time? Have we been helping them trigger stack, which is not what we want to do, but unconsciously trigger stacking is we bring our dog out to one thing and we introduce them to another thing and we go to another thing. And the triggers, they handle themselves, but then the triggers, they just start hitting overload. So check out, if you're in foundations, we've got something called the emotional bucket. Go check out that article. It will help explain a little bit more in terms of emotional response to trigger stacking. We also got to look at recent stressors in their life. Did they have a vet visit recently? Sometimes those are very stressful for dogs. Was there a large party? Was there an earthquake? Was there fireworks? Are there other things that aren't necessarily trigger stacking, which is kind of things that happen in progression fairly quickly? It's more of the recent stressors, which comes back to, did they have enough recovery time? And then we also go into all of these, go into their learned history. So it's really important to reframe that your dog has a different capacity each day. And if they react, they've just given you a lot of information. So instead of jumping into, I got to fix this and what's wrong with my dog, just look at it as like, oh my God, they just gave me some brilliant information. I have to remember what this selective reactivity is. And that means we have to become detectives. And if you haven't gone through Buddy Basics yet, there's a lot of worksheets in there where we could talk about becoming a detective. And we focus on the positive things, which is what foods do our dog like? What's their favorite form of play? What brings them happiness, joy, those kinds of things. My training style is to focus on the positive piece because I believe in brain, we have a conscious bias and our bias towards frequency bias. So if we look for something, we'll find it. So if we're going to look for what our dog likes, we'll be more attuned to exposing them to that. But if we're struggling with our dog saying, why is it that my dog responds to this one border collie all the time? Or why is it that my dog doesn't like for me, I can't say the word feline or, the small short word, 3-letter word that rhymes with that. Well, I've got my dog present because she'll react to it. So I need to reframe and create a new association with that word. So anyway, that's where we get into, we want to know that our dogs are always giving us information. And then it's for us to just go, okay, wait a minute. This is brilliant. Thank you, dog. What do I need to remember that my dog is reacting to in the entire picture? And that can feel overwhelming to us because we just want to go, no. I know that it was the same thing. Nothing else changed except that Aussie came out. So it must be the Aussie that did the reaction. So we're gonna drill that down just a little bit as we go, because I'm gonna question that belief. Not about shame, blame, guilt, just gonna help you maybe see that there's a different perspective we could have. So in all these buckets, which we talked about, the context and environment, the other, which is same kind of context, but it's things we can't control, and the dog in front of me today, which is their emotional state and their have they recovered? Did they get enough sleep? Are they cranky? So it's kind of that dog in front of me today. I have to put all those three together. And then we say, well, what am I going to do with all that information? But this is why first we want to look at why exposure in and of itself doesn't fix it. So for those of you that are new to foundations or pause and success, we say a lot that dogs become what they rehearse. So if they get to practice a behavior, they will create a habit out of it. So the best thing we can do is go into Reframe, Manage, Train. In a minute, Alan's going to post a link to a document that we can look at that's a little bit more specific on Reframe, Manage, Train, but you can download it, check it out, because what we look at is dogs become what they rehearse. So if we do a repeated exposure to that same thing without teaching our dogs new skills, we're basically reinforcing the same pattern, just louder, which is louder and louder and louder, because we're not teaching them anything. And we're in that, whatever what is it that people say, like the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. That's basically what exposure does to our dogs. We just keep repeating the pattern and then we think, why aren't they behaving any different? Well, because we haven't ever taught them the skills to work with that. So we end up flooding them. Now, flooding is a little different than trigger stacking. Flooding is just sort of constant stimulation overload. Technically, it's the same thing. You don't need to be as geeky as I am. But we need to know that flooding, which is exposure, meaning I'm just going to sit here and wait for your sensory input to come down till the situation doesn't bug you anymore, it doesn't build confidence. It's a terrible strategy, I think, to use with humans or dogs, but some of us love it because we go, well, look, I was raised that way and I turned out okay. And I go, I don't know. Did you? But that's judgment. But what it does is it builds survival skills. So what we're teaching our dog is to survive rather than actually cope and have choices. So that's really what we want to remember. If you can write it down, is repeated exposure without new skills just teaches the same pattern, but louder. And that it doesn't fix anything. So we want to, some of you know this, you can type it in, train for the situation, not in the situation. So what does that mean? This is where we're going to get into a little bit practical. Train for the situation, not in the situation. We have to constantly remind ourselves of this. I've been doing this for 15, 16 years, maybe longer. And I constantly have to remember, oh yeah, they're not learning in the situation. I can't just go into game day and start coaching from the sidelines or coaching with my leash. I have to train for the situation, meaning I've got to back up and say, what skills does my dog need? What skills do I need in order to handle the situation? And just today we were walking into a store to buy some feed for our goats. And this poor dog was, we watched this woman come in. Dog was just amazing. It looked like a small puppy, a golden retriever. And, it's excited. It's out. There's feed, there's smells. Right before the holidays, the store's packed. And this dog was walking pretty good, but the person just kept jerking that leash because she knows something, I don't know, was going to happen, or the dog wasn't perfectly by her side. But rather than teaching that dog to be by the side, she just kept going, come on, what are you doing? What's wrong? And you heard the dog make noise like, and just keep getting choked. And it's hard. I can't, can't say anything. So we just watch and go, wow, that's poor dog. I want to give her my card to be like, in a year, when your dog has reactivity issues, it's going to be hard. What is that dog learning? It's learning that coming into a store, it's going to get choked. We don't know what the association is, though, because that dog could have been reacting to hay smell, right? So maybe now hay smell is the thing that's going to trigger reactivity. Maybe it was those sliding doors, the big, the little vestibule doors that block all the wind in, right? So the doors slid open. Maybe that's going to become the trigger because the dog kept getting choked back in the moment of those doors opening. Maybe it was me standing in my rain gear. That could be the trigger. Could be that there was a guy at the register wearing a hat and had a beard. What if the dog looked at him right there when he gets triggered? Yes, I'm trying to be overwhelming in this because that's when we're training in the situation, not for the situation. There's too many variables in that real world to understand what is this dog making an association to, what are they learning? When clearly getting out of the car right away, we saw, oh, the dog doesn't have skills to be going into a public store because there's too many variables. There's too many variables to figure out what is this dog going to react to. If anything, maybe the dog's just so biddable and so loving that it's just like, well, whatever, I guess it's just what life is like to get choked around and moved, and maybe I'll just survive. But my guess is we're teaching that dog that unpredictability and novelty is actually something to get very confused over. All of this can lead later to selective reactivity because they make a strong association, and it's often one that we are not aware of. If we are trying to train our dog with all the input and we're not aware of all the different things going on around us, which we can't humanly be, it's not possible to be aware of everything. So then we come up with our story of what this reactivity means, and we try to fix it, and the dog's like, lady, I don't have a problem with the doors. I don't have a problem with that border collie coming at me. I don't have a problem with pigs. I have a problem with a large tractor because that happened to be there the day. Or I have a problem with this kind of car because it backfired when something happened. So if you can see the complexity of this is why we slow it down. Our environmental levels of distraction that we use, level 1 through 5. Going into that store as a level 5, that's game day. We have to teach our dogs the skills to get there. Okay, so this is where we talk about what actually helps. Reframe, manage, train. So if you can download the document, this will give you kind of practical day-to-day things to do. But basically, what we end up doing is we're giving our dogs direction without giving them what the actual protocols are to learn. Reframe. Reframe is the goal. This is going to be a lot of negatives. The goal is not no reaction. We want to reframe our belief to know the goal is how to notice earlier, how to have faster recovery, how to have a cleaner exit when my dog isn't listening. That's the goal. Instead of fixing the problem, we're reframing. Well, I need to notice earlier, have faster recovery, have cleaner exits. It'd be perfect if we could do that. Then we want to manage and realize manage is we're changing the picture. Distance is the best tool you can have when you think your dog is reacting or over responding, we'll call it. The distance is a great tool. It's not a failure. It's letting your dog understand that they're safe. So we change up that whole picture then that happens, and that predictability can reduce the dog's stress and allow them to start thinking. And then we go into training, which is supporting kind of their recovery, but we're teaching disengagement as a skill, not avoidance, but actually choosing to leave a situation and rewarding that. And then also coming into our handler awareness, which is there tension on the leash? What's my body doing? What's my posture? Am I anticipating something? Because that's often what's happening, is we have to train ourselves first, because we've made the association that my dog is reactive to Australian Shepherds. I'm picking on Australian Shepherds tonight. I love Aussies. So don't get me wrong. Just happens to be a fuzzy dog that's around our town a lot, and a lot of bigger dogs seem to be reactive to it. So um, I know that my dog, this is the picture I've made, my dog is going to be reactive to that Australian Shepherd. So therefore, when I see an Australian Shepherd, what do? Pull up on that leash just a little bit more. I'm a little tighter. I'm sending all the energy down, and my dog goes, aha, she's doing it again. Something's about to happen. Something is about to happen because I gave my dog all the cues that something's about to happen. So my dog went on alert, then saw that Australian Shepherd and went, this happened last time we saw one. I'm going to get that Australian Shepherd out of here to protect mom, or just because I don't want to feel like I'm being restrained anymore. So get out of here, Australian Shepherd. Bad things happen when you're around. Yikes. That's not about blame. That's about awareness of our human patterns. And this is where we come into basics, right? Bonding, awareness, synchronizing, instructing, coaching, succeeding. Those are all steps that we come back to. Everything we train comes back to the basics. It's just the basics in a different context. So just want you to remember that piece, is that is one of the very valuable things. So as we wrap up, well, what the heck am I going to do? So I want your goal this week just to be one thing, and it's to prevent one moment of overwhelm in you and your dog. That's the goal, one thing. So let me give you two options of a way to do this. I want to give you permission, and a lot of you don't need permission, but some of you do. Some of it, we need to give ourselves permission. It's not permission from me. Go somewhere and observe calmly at a really safe distance. This is great if you are celebrating Christmas and New Year's and the holidays coming up. Things are busy. Lots of novelty going on. If you go downtown, chances are there's a lot of cars, there's tension, there's people in our most joyous time of the year. But we could just sit in your car or sit on the back of your car and just observe calmly at a distance with your dog and let them start feeling rewarded and safe with you. It's a great piece. Another one is to start tracking one behavior chain, start to finish, meaning see if you go out, start noticing all the different things like, oh, I got past that dog on a sunny day, but not a rainy day. Huh, that's fascinating. Or I could walk past that dog because they run a fence line and it's safe. Well, I can walk past that dog if I have my dog on the outside, but not the inside. Okay, that's information. And then see if we can change only one thing to try to bring down a moment of overwhelm. So one thing to remember as we're doing this, though, is that change is subtle. And in fact, I'm going to go to the point to say change is almost boring. And this is where humans mess it up, and we end up reinforcing selective reactivity. Because we, as a culture and as a human and people, especially Western culture, are addicted to the aha moments, the big, my brain just exploded. We are addicted to big aha moments. But change and behavior change it's so quiet. Here's an example. I work with a lot of people on the dog-dog reactivity, right? Because it's common, because there's a lot of dogs and there's a lot of human interaction and there's a lot of misunderstanding of socialization and interaction and approaching. So we work with this dog to ignore this other dog trigger. I don't know. I want to come up with, I can't even come up with a kind of dog other than an Australian Shepherd. I'm tired of picking on them. So, okay, I'm going to, a big white cockapoo. Okay. So my dog doesn't want to come up, see a cockapoo. So we work on changing that. I'm working with the dog. We're engaging his brain. We're at a distance. It's fine. Dog ignores this little white cockapoo coming by. And we go, great. Almost every time the human goes, well, but he didn't even notice him. I mean, he didn't even see that he was there. So that's not really ignoring him. He just didn't even see him pass. And every time you have to stop and go, wow, your dog just did exactly what you want them to do. That somehow every other time they notice this white cockapoo and get reactive. They bark, they lunge, they stare down, they whatever. They start whining or they jump, and we think that we interpret it as wanting to play. Now your dog just kept working with you. And my human brain goes to, yeah, but they didn't even notice he was there. And we deal all the time with doorbells, with all the kinds of things, the delivery truck. Well, my dog didn't even notice it. I'm like, really? Notices it every other time except this time. What? What changed? Oh, you were working with your dog. So we can't even celebrate the successes we have because we want the big ahas, right? So then what happens is then the human intervenes and starts almost pointing out the thing like, well, if my dog doesn't notice the cockapoo come by, I'm going to kind of go, see, did you see it? Or kind of wait, pause and be like, I'm waiting for him to stare. So the dog goes, well, okay, I guess I'm supposed to react. So I'll just get that stupid thing out because I felt the tension happen. And it's hard. It's hard. It can be hard. It's simple, but not easy to change. So that's where selective reactivity comes in as I start going, well, I know that my dog reacts to this environment and now he's not. So I'm kind of tense, like waiting for them to react, being like, well, what's happening? He's not reacting. As opposed to going, celebrate, they had a success. That's awesome. We got one moment of success. But then what we do is go, no, I don't trust that he really didn't notice it. That behavior's not going to stick. He's going to go back to reacting. So I've got to correct. I've got to tell him what to do, tell him the expectations by force or by correction somehow, because I have to tell him that behavior is not acceptable. I'm like, I don't know. You just had a good success. And then we're going back to, well, but that success didn't count because of list. And I'm now predicting for my dog that the behavior is going to happen. Does that make sense? And now we've reinforced the pattern, which that dog is something to be concerned about. The doorbell is something to be over the top excited about. Aunt Frida coming over is somebody to go jump on because we predict the behavior almost better than dogs at times because we're unwilling to let go of the behavior change because we miss progress, because progress is quiet and progress can be boring. It's not the big aha moments. So we miss it and we end up reinforcing the selective reactivity. Yeah, so we miss progress because it's quiet. Selective reactivity means coping is possible because they're probably only reacting to like 5, 10, 15% of the world if they're big reactions. Otherwise, most of us, it's just a few situations that they react to. So what we have to turn that around in the reframe is they're telling you they have coping skills. So let's start focusing on what their great coping skills are and the things that annoy us. We have to look and say, well, how am I setting up that situation? Is there a different way I can set the situation up to set my dog up for success? And more often than not, what I hear is when people say it, they're like, well, but we were sitting out, my dog's off leash, they have a couple acres. Yeah, absolutely. Very hard to control a dog in that. So is there a long line we can put them on? Can we teach our dog to be near us? Gates, fence, kennels. Is there a way to manage the situation? And in this kind of selective reactivity, meaning, there is a pattern. It's discovering that pattern. That's why precision beats intensity in these. So I want precise timing, precise understanding of controlling the environment. And that that means stepping back and the basics and being, what is the awareness? Synchronizing, what's my body doing? Am I instructing my buddy to do? I'm not just telling him what to do, but what am I setting him up? Am I coaching him? Am I leading him into a situation that he's got the skills for? Are we succeeding? I go back to the basics and set that up differently. Generalizing the problems, meaning overexposing or thinking that they're going to go into lots of different areas and it's just going to go away, usually confuses the dog and actually escalates the problem. So then it's not selective reactivity. It's sort of, they learn to generalize reactivity as well. So then generalized reactivity can eventually come into aggression when that dog is frustrated enough that they feel like they've got to act out. So that's what we don't want to ignore, selective reactivity. And it's always remembering that calm and confidence are taught, they're not enforced. So that is a constant reminder of, we're just helping our dogs learn, calm, confident behavior through all the games, through brain work, through consistency, not just repetition in training skills, but repetition in scenarios, in setups, and helping them just change one thing at a time so that they can learn to cope. So I want to thank you guys for spending part of your Tuesday with us to see your dog more clearly. And that alone changes more than you think. Just the ability to show up and learn to reconnect with your dog. So selective reactivity can be really frustrating because we tend to focus on that and not the 90% that they're doing well. We tend to focus on the issues and the things that are annoying us because we just want our dogs to be perfect. But if we start looking at like, well, are we creating harm? What's needed? And then start setting up the situation differently, reframe, manage, and then we can train for that situation. And if you need help with the hands-on training, we're always here. We've got our Pause and Success Mastery community. We've got our games libraries, but the place to start would be Buddy Basics. You can go through that and start getting what are the basics with bonding awareness, synchronizing, instructing, coaching, succeeding. Get those down. Start practicing lots of. Try that one thing that we're going to do this week, which is observe from a distance, or start tracking one chain reaction, start to finish, and then we can start breaking those down, especially for those of you in mastery. Bring those to the Mastery Live, and we'll start breaking down the different behavior chains on what's happening. So until next time, I want you to remain calm, confident, and connected. I'm Heather Furby with Pause and Success from Casa Luna Canines. Remember, don't train in the situation, train for the situation. So start now. All right, you guys, take care.